Deontay Wilder suffered the loss of Joseph Parker in the last 2 weeks or so, and in the light of all his comments post-fight, talking about how Joshua was happy that he lost, in the light of his allegations towards Tyson Fury, in the light of him saying that Joshua's career was being easy and manufactured and essentially is not tough like the road that he had, I wanted to break down Deontay Wilder's career. Now, I don't dislike Wilder. I'm actually a fan of Wilder in the ring. He seems like a cool person when he's away from boxing. I also want to say, I don't want to disrespect anyone on Wilder's record either, but it just is what it is. And I also want to say, with Deontay Wilder, he has carved out a career for himself. He's an extremely limited fighter. He's a guy who's made multi-millions off one hand. And obviously, I understand from a boxing point of view, guiding one's career. And his career has obviously been guided to a way where he's been able to make tens of millions. Again, essential for right hand. Now, he made a mistake in fighting Tyson Fury that first time because they thought it was going to be an easy pick. And obviously, it didn't happen. But we'll get there eventually. I want to break down his record from top to bottom. Wilder's got around 45, 46 fights now at this point. So I just want to quickly go through his career to kind of show you what Wilder's career has really been. Now, the guy started boxing when he was 21 years old or 22 years old, and he only started because his daughter had spinal bifida. He was a truck driver before that. I know he grew up son of a priest, and he got into boxing just to make some extra money, and obviously it's exploded into what it is now. Now, he went to the Olympics, he got bronze, hence the name the Bronze Bomber. And from all accounts, he said it himself as well, during the Olympics, he was kind of like someone no one really knew about. He just kind of ended up going, and then obviously ended up getting a medal. So he done well for a guy who started boxing extremely late. He's got an incredible amount of self-belief. And again, he's carved out a good career for himself. I know he seems like he's very, very happy in his life. And I think, again, you see the way he is now. He's just so happy in life because, again, he's extremely wealthy at this point. Anyway, let's start. First fight, you know how it goes in boxing. You're going to face a few journeymen before you gradually step up over time. First fight, a guy called Ethan Cox. Journeyman, knocked him out in 2. We move on. Shannon Gray, this was his last fight that he actually ever fought. I think, yeah, this was Shannon Gray's last fight. Wilder fought him, knocked him out 1 round. Journeyman, Richard Green Jr. This guy was heavy. He weighed over 350 pounds. And as overweight as he was, for a guy that's 200 pounds, not a guy that's that big is pretty impressive. But yeah. Oh, he didn't knock him out, my apologies. He stopped him he stopped him in his corner. Probably ran out of breath after the first round. Anyway. Oh, it says here that he injured his wrist. Fair enough. Fourth fight was against Joseph, can't pronounce his name, another journeyman. Charles Brown, he actually fought Stavern in his career. Wilder was his last fight as well, similar to Shannon Gray, journeyman. Move on to Kelsey Arnold, another journeyman, but he fought the likes of like Andy Ruiz, Alexandra Flores. He fought a few names that you may know, so yeah, there we go. Travis Allen, he started off as a cruiserweight. Wilder was his last fight as well. And another journeyman, Jerry, I can't pronounce his last name, Jerry, journeyman, Ty Cobb, journeyman, Alvaro Morales. Again, he fought Andy Ruiz, he fought Malik Scott, who we'll get into a bit later on. Another journeyman, Dustin Nichols, journeyman, and he was another guy, he was extremely heavy. Look at this guy, he was nearly 400 pounds. And funny enough, you see here, first round again, he stopped. He ran out of breath after a round. He's huffing and puffing in that corner. Anyway, Shannon, can't pronounce his last name. Another journeyman. Now we get to the Harold fight. This was the fight that most of us have heard about before, and this is the fight where Wilder was actually dropped. It says here as well on BoxRec. And there's pictures online. The actual fight of it does not exist online. It was online years and years and years ago, but I don't know. I'm sure Wilder's team or Uncle Al got that erased from the internet so no one could see it. From the accounts, though, if you go online and read about it, people said that Wilder was hurt extremely bad, and he actually should have stopped the fight because how bad he hurt Wilder was. But again, we'll never be able to actually see it. But that's just from what people said that were actually in the arena. Anyway, after this fight, you see a change in Wilder's career. After this, because Howard was a journeyman as well himself, and the fact that a journeyman was able to hurt Wilder made Wilder's team change their strategy on him. Now, Wilder at this point is moving extremely slow in his career. He's not stepped up at all. He's still facing journeyman, but it gets pulled back even more. After the Harold fight, we fight Dan Sheehan. He was a guy who was a light heavyweight, was out of the ring for 3 years, and then fought Wilder. So you see here, he's facing journeyman, but now he's facing guys who've not been in the ring for years, and the records are just kind of just got worse here. But another thing we'll see here, Wilder's extremely active at the start of his career. Anyway, he got a first round KO against guys who've been out the ring 3 years, and was a cruiserweight essentially. See, he was like 204 pounds. So yeah, he was out of shape when he came to fight Wilder. Anyway, journeyman Deontay Wilder. He was the guy that he was a light heavyweight as well. And he was at the ring for a long time before he fought Wilder. So another journeyman, Reggie Pina. He was a middleweight. Reggie Pina, if you guys don't know, he started off his career at 164 pounds. By the time he got to Wilder, he was 219. He was fat. Sorry, he was out of shape. You should look at him. He was out of shape. Damson Reed, he was a cruiserweight. I think anyone don't know Damson Reed is either. This guy, Damson Reed, lost to Mark Demori. Yes, the same Mark Demori got blown out in 1 round by Hergovich. The same Mark Demori that got knocked out by a way over the hill David Haye in 1 round as well. Mark Demori, if you guys don't know either, Mark Demori started boxing very late and he started training himself through YouTube videos. So again, Mark Demori, shout out to Mark Demori. He's cut a good career for himself as well for someone who's taught himself through YouTube. So there we go. Now, Dominique Alexander, light heavyweight, turned cruiserweight, and then when he fought Wilder, he fought a heavyweight, 217. Another guy, he was a journeyman, he was fat, and he was out of shape. Again, sorry when we read these boxers, but it just is what it is. Now, as I said before, after that Harold fight, he took a big step back in his opponents. They started pacing him extremely slowly because at this point, they would have known how limited Deontay Wilder was at this point. So, yeah. Anyway, Daniel Coulter, he was a cruiserweight. He fought at 227 against Wilder. He was fat and out of shape as well. Anyway, we move on to Daniel Long, just another journeyman. This guy actually was a normal heavyweight, so that's different. First round KO for Deontay Wilder. Marlon Hayes was a light heavyweight, turned cruiserweight, turned heavyweight. He was fat, out of shape as well. 4th round KO for Deontay Wilder. Jesse Oates, I can't pronounce his last name. My apologies. Jesse was a cruiserweight. Wilder fought him, beat him. Owen Beck, he fought like Ray Austin. He fought Manuel Charr. He fought George Arias. He's the guy who just fought Jerry Anderson pretty recently as well. He's the guy just like Muhammad Ali, if you guys don't know who he is. But he was a natural heavyweight, which is that change of pace now. So now we're stepping up. Now we're going from D-level journeyman to about a C-level journeyman. You know, stepping it up slightly. Damon McRae. He was a middleweight when he first started his career off, and yeah, I think this was actually the first fight Wilder fought about loss or draw records. So now we're getting a little step up here in journeyman level. Now, Kelvin Price was probably the first fight that a lot of people may have saw from Deontay Wilder. If I'm not mistaken, I think this was on the Amir Khan undercard. I'm pretty sure it was. And this is that knockout where the guys wearing blue shorts and he's like shaking on the ground after the fight's done. So this might have been the first time, not well, some people would have maybe heard of Deontay Wilder, actually saw him on TV potentially. He fought a guy called Matthew Greer, journeyman. He fought Audie Harrison. If I'm not mistaken, this was Audie Harrison's last fight. Audie Harrison at this point was so over the hill, but this might be the first time anyone looked at Wilder's record and actually looks at someone and goes, this is somebody that we've heard of before. Audie Harrison, if you guys don't know, he was an Olympian. He won gold in 2000 Olympics. He had this big deal, the BBC 10-fight deal. After Audie Harrison was on the BBC got out of the boxing game. Yeah, extremely over the hill Audie Harrison at this point. He literally had nothing left in him at this point. But again, respect to Audie Harrison. I can't pronounce this guy's name here. He fought Andy Ruiz, natural heavyweight. So now we're getting natural heavyweights now. Nikolai Feature, he was another guy, a journeyman. So now, to put it in perspective for everyone here, by the time we get to Nikolai, Deontay Wilder is 29-0 and he's essentially fighting journeyman and people over the hill. Now, I wouldn't have so much of a problem with it if Wilder knew what he was, but it's just the fact that Wilder at this point in his career still walks around like he had it as tough as Joshua was fighting Klitschko in his 16th, 17th fight for world championships. And you're here talking about his career as manufactured. No, Wilder. Yours was. You had good people in your corner who made sure that you had that they paced you extremely slowly because they knew how limited you were. Then we get to Malik Scott. They fight in Cuba. And this fight here was an absolute joke. Malik Scott's a trainer now. And listen, Malik Scott might have made the best investment of all time. Let me take a dive against Deontay Wilder now, become friends with him. I'm not sure they were friends before this. And then train him later and get that 20%, 30% trainer cut. That's what he's doing. He's eating good. I don't dislike Malik Scott either. I think he's I like hearing him talk in interviews. But we'll get into Malik Scott a lot later. But the way you see Deontay Wilder box now, how he's moving around the ring in circles against Parker. He done it against Helenius too. Go and watch Malik Scott fight. That is exactly how Malik Scott used to fight. Malik Scott was a guy where... Go and watch his fight against... If anyone haven't seen it, go and watch his fight against Luis Ortiz. Absolute joke. He essentially ran for 10 or 12 rounds. I forgot how many rounds it was. And whenever Ortiz threw a gust of wind at Malik Scott, he was flying across the floor. It was a joke of a fight. Go and watch it back if you haven't seen it before. Jason Gavin. This was the first common point that him and AJ had. AJ obviously fought him a few years later. But Jason Gavin, another journeyman. And then, now, this is the problem with rankings, right? Across all of this parts of Deontay Wilder's career, he's fought journeyman and Malik Scott, right? Journeyman and Malik Scott, who took a dive. Malik Scott, who took a dive in their fight. He got from taking it, and I don't want anyone to argue me with that. He took a dive. Go and watch it back. Wilder didn't touch him. Wilder hit him with a gust of wind, and he went flying. He literally went flying across the ring like he'd been hit with a cannon. So he went from that to a world title shot against Bermane Stiverne. And tell me this isn't a guy whose career is being guided very slowly, very great, and being lobbied very, very well. How you move up in the rankings based off this? I don't have a clue. You went from a guy who's 21-10, 36-1, 25-16. Let me get a title shot off the back of that. It's a joke, but it is what it is. He fought Malik Scott. If I'm not mistaken, he broke his hand in that fight. He went 12 rounds, beat him. Bermane Stiverne didn't do anything in that fight. He essentially walked forward with a high guard, and that was really it. After that, he goes and fights Malik Scott. And funny enough, Stiverne wasn't terrible at this point, but Stiverne's his best win at this point. He fought Malik Scott. He fought Eric Molina. Molina hurt him in that fight, wobbled him. He knocked out Molina around after hurting him twice. After hurting him a few times in that fight. He went and then fought Johan Duropos. Decent fight. He got stopped on his feet. Johan came with a high guard. He busted up Wilder's eye in that fight. Wilder had a really big swollen eye. Yeah, I want that fight. That fight's on YouTube if anyone wants to watch it, by the way. It's all there for you to see. He stopped him on his feet. Johan just basically came forward with a high guard, his chin tucked, and that's essentially how the fight went. But he gave Wilder some problems. He put a lot of pressure on Wilder, had Wilder moving his back foot the whole time, more or less. Arthur Schmilker. This was a tough fight for Deontay Wilder. Similar, came up with a high guard. He was a southpaw. Southpaw, high guard. I was giving Wilder problems with his movement, more or less. I had Wilder losing on the scorecards by the time the fight would start, but it was a devastating knockout. Again, a lot of you will say knockout by now. On the back foot, Schmilker comes in, Wilder lines up the right hand. Lead hand out, right hand, knocks him out. Nasty knockout. Schmilker has had some really bad knockouts in his career, by the way. I think so. He retired in the last year or two. Chris Arreola knocks him down, finishes him in 8. He retires on the stool. Yeah. So for those who don't know about this fight as well, Wilder broke his hand this fight, and before this fight actually happened, Wilder was meant to fight Povetkin. Povetkin failed the drug test for Angelo on that. When Povetkin was actually taking the drug, it wasn't on the ban list. But by the time they got to the fight, by the time the fight was announced and the drug testing, it was on the list. Wilder was actually in Russia. The second they heard that he failed drug test, they got on a plane and got out. At the time, yeah, when this fight happened, I thought Wilder was going to get absolutely starched. So in some way, it's a blessing in disguise that he's able to get out of it. If I'm not mistaken, I think Wilder actually won some sort of lawsuit against Povetkin and his team for that fight. So, yeah. Anyway, we move on to Washington. He took a bit of a break after breaking his hand against Ariola. And by the way, I've done boxing, yeah. I do boxing. You break your hand when you don't punch with the correct... well, if your hand's not wrapped correctly, which his hands would be, or you don't punch correctly. And we know at this point, Wilder was known as Windmill Wilder, and his arms were flailing everywhere. Yeah, that happens when you don't punch correctly. It obviously hits extremely hard, but yeah. Anyway, then we get the Washington fight. I always found the Washington fight to be a bit of a weird stoppage. Washington was basically outboxing Wilder for 5 rounds. For the 5 rounds until he got stopped. He just kind of quit. It was a weird one, Washington. Anyway, he then fought Bermane Stiverne again. Now, let me put something into perspective for you. Bermane Stiverne in that first fight was 239. In this fight, he was 255. Stiverne was out the ring for 2 years. He essentially came off the couch. I think this was supposed to be a Luis Ortiz fight originally, but Ortiz failed a drug test. And he starts Bermane Stiverne in the round. Everyone's seen it before. This was the first time I actually watched Wilder live. But I knew Wilder was before this, but I never actually stayed up UK time to watch him live. This is the first time I watched him live, and I thought, holy moly. I'll never forget, I was watching my room, right? I was watching the room I'm in right now, and I thought, damn. Stayed up all the time. He knocked him out 1 round. I thought, damn. But Wilder knocked him out. Stiverne shouldn't have been in the ring. I don't know how WBC sanctioned it. You know, you got the IBF, for example, right now telling Opetaya you can't fight Zorro because of the rankings. WBC are a joke. Mauricio Solomon's a joke. He shouldn't have been in that ring in the first place. The one that he got starched in 1 round. It was a joke. It shouldn't have happened, but it's what it is. And even through a drug test failed by Luis Ortiz, he still went and got a title shot in the next fight. They still sanctioned a title shot in the next fight, even though he failed a drug test. Wilder literally fought him a few months later. Now, this was, at the time, everyone was touting Ortiz as the boogeyman, and they're also using AJ a lot of the time for marketing purposes. Oh, AJ ducked him. And nobody wants to fight Ortiz. That for me was a marketing tactic. Between Fury and Wilder, the marketing tactic is AJ's ducking me, AJ's ducking me. Because AJ is the premier fight heavyweight, and for me it still is. He fights Ortiz. I've always speculated for years. Ortiz is chinny. He's older than he is, and he's chinny. They knew that. They knew it was a tough fight for Wilder, but they knew he was chinny. If Wilder tapped him in the chin, he's going to go down. Wilder dropped him a few times. Ortiz fought well. He hurt Wilder. I want to say it was maybe the 7th round where he hurt Wilder really badly. We know how tough Wilder is. He's extremely tough. He took his licks, came back, was hurt again. There was that whole controversy where Wilder, after the round he got hurt, in the next round, they started the round a few seconds late to give Wilder extra time to recover. Again, this is Deontay Wilder, the guy who talks about he had it tougher than AJ, while he's getting extra seconds to recover after being hurt. We'll talk about that later on as well, because he had it happen to him multiple times in his career. And also, when he got hurt, Deontay Wilder, watch the fight back. His corner says to him, you remember when AJ was hurt against Vladimir Klitschko, now is your time to go and show the world who you are. Something along those lines. I always found it interesting that his corner used AJ as a motivator for Deontay Wilder. Anyway, after that fight was done, they fight Tyson Fury. Now, when this fight was announced, I was so upset because I said, oh man, Wilder's already padding his record with people to make him look better than he really is, and they're going to feed him Fury. Fury looked like absolute rubbish against Safa Fury, looked like rubbish against Pianeta, and I thought, damn, in his first fight back, he's going to come back and he's going to starch Tyson Fury in a few rounds. That's what I thought at the time. Obviously, we know what happened. Tyson Fury looked so much better than I thought he would. He's obviously dropped Fury twice in that fight and ended up being a draw. I thought Tyson Fury won, in my opinion. But I also think it was very close. Like, it's on at 113. I'm not mad at that. Cause Fury wasn't overly active with his hands. That's what you have to understand about that fight. He wasn't overly active. But that's neither here or there. They tried to cherry pick Tyson Fury. That's what everyone tell people. People don't like to believe it. They tried to cherry pick Tyson Fury. They saw how bad it looked, and he would have been a great name. A great name. And it's again, this was a time where him and AJ were really going back and forth. If Wilder was able to beat Tyson Fury, oh man, it would have given him great standing for that AJ fight, because I beat Fury. I beat Tyson Fury, but he couldn't beat him. And the fact that Wilder, he was very active at the time, could not beat unprepared Tyson Fury, says a lot. But anyway, we know Wilder is. It's just the right hand. Fury looked amazing in that fight, by the way. Then he fought down in Brazil. This is when he went to actually fight on the zone. They gave him over 100 million to fight on the zone. His team turned it down. DiBello got fired. Yeah, it was a joke. People want to say AJ ducked Wilder. Around this time period, it wasn't me. It wasn't him, in my opinion. Uncle Al didn't want that fight on the zone, in my opinion, and that's why he didn't. And that's how they basically killed it off. But the knockout in that fight was devastating. He starched him. But Don Brazil is a guy that hangs his chin up in the air, and so he always does. That's what he always does. And also in this time period, Dillian Whyte was really lobbying because he was mandatory for that belt. And for whatever, Deontay Wilder did not want to let Dillian Whyte get a title shot. And for those who don't know either, Deontay Wilder sent a DM to Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte showed in the video of Wilder going, "I'm never going to give you a title shot. I'm never going to let you fight for this belt." So, there you go. And then he fought Ortiz again. Nobody wanted to see the fight. Wilder essentially barely threw a punch to the 7th round and then knocked Ortiz out. Nobody wanted to see the fight. It was a joke, in my opinion. Luis Ortiz gets 2 title shots in 2 years. Back-to-back years title shots. Meanwhile, Dillian Whyte at the time, who was undefeated post AJ, couldn't even get a title shot. WBC, I just have so much issues with that organization. Anyway, and then we get Tyson Fury rematch. Tyson Fury runs through him. He starts making excuses. Tyson Fury looked amazing in this fight. Tyson Fury was ducked to the point in this fight, by the way, which I thought was an absolute joke. They skipped Kenny Bayless, yeah. I know he just recently retired. Good referee, but he could be dirty sometimes, in my opinion. He ducked to Fury a point. I don't remember what. I want to say it was for. Was it for? What, it might have been for excessive hold. It was for something ridiculous. I need to go back and watch that fight. It was something ridiculous. I think it was for holding on for too long. He ducked to the point of him or something like that. They wanted to try to give Wilder points in that fight, in my opinion. It was a joke. He didn't deserve to get the point of duck. I'm watching it. I was thinking, why did they duck the point of him? It's a joke. But essentially, Fury changed tactics. He came out Wilder, put him on the back foot, and basically beat him up for 7 rounds. After the fight, it was his suit that was too heavy. It was the drink that his trainer gave him. Mark Breland shouldn't have pulled him out. Wilder has people like JD. I'll get into it later about JD as in his team. The rematch happens. Tyson Fury looks awful, in my opinion. I know he had stuff with his wife, and his wife was giving birth around the time period. Tyson Fury looked awful in that fight. Absolutely awful, in my opinion. Wilder changed trains, got Malik Scott, which I spoke about earlier. And let me talk about Malik Scott for a minute. Deontay Wilder saw he's extremely delusional. I've always said, to be great, you have to be delusional. You have to have an element of delusional to be great. Everything starts with an idea in your head. And you have to be the person to be delusional enough to go, I'm going to try this. I'm going to do it. Wilder's delusional, but there's limits to delusion. And people like Malik Scott, Jay Diaz, and the other people in Wilder's corner, they just feed into his delusion. Look at an interview with Malik Scott. Oh man, Deontay Wilder is as great as Muhammad Ali. He'll beat Muhammad Ali in a fight. This feeding into Wilder's ego. You gotta be frank with the guy. Listen, Wilder, you're limited as hell. You've just got a right hand. I don't want you to move around the ring and do circles. All I want you to do is let's just brush up on the right hand and get other ways for you to fight right hand. That's what you have to do. They feed into delusions. Jay Diaz as well. I don't know what that guy does. When Wilder was talking about Fury had stuff in his gloves, egg weights in his gloves. Do you know who the person was that watched Fury's hands get wrapped? Jay Diaz. Why is he still there? You moan about Mark Breeden. Jay Diaz was the one who watched Fury's hands get wrapped. It's there on video. Go and watch it. Go and watch it. It's all there. But it's what it is. Making silly excuses. And people, it seems like no one in his team sits there and goes, Wilder, sit down. You lost the fight. The guy didn't have egg weights in his hand. If he had egg weights in his hand, he would have broke his hand and punched you in the head. Furthermore, Wilder as a boxer, if anyone hasn't put on a boxing glove before, there ain't that much space in there. Try punching with egg weights in your hand. See what happens to your hands. You're gonna shatter your hand. Joke thing. Anyway, after that loss, he goes for Talenius, knocks him out in the round. He goes fights Parker, loses 12-round decision. And Parker also a fight I wanted to see like 2 or 3 years prior. I'm happy we actually saw it in the end. And I always said this about Deontay Wilder. Put Wilder in against other contenders. Not Brazil mandatory fairs. Not Ortiz in the rematch that we saw already, who's chinny and old. Not Stavern, who he hadn't fought in 2 years. Not Washington, who, no offense to him, lacks heart. Not Ariola, not Spilka. No. Put Wilder in against other contenders. Put him in against at the time. Who did we have? Parker was the champion. Let's say around 2019. Rather than Parker, put him in against. He was in the top 10 at the time. I can't even remember right now. I'll put him against those guys in the top 10 and see what happens. You'll see him come undone. The second Deontay Wilder leaves that PBC circle and expands outside the PBC circle, he loses. Now, he still has that right hand. If he fought AJ right now, I'll favour AJ. A couple years ago, I didn't think AJ would win. If I'm honest with you. Even though, because I didn't think AJ would be able to get away from that right hand. But right now, especially right now, I think AJ will starch him. I think AJ will run through him. Again though, he still has that right hand. Still gotta be careful. While I talk about losing his killer instinct, man, he needs to get it back. After taking that substance that he took, it seems like he's lost it. Well, and one thing about that substance, I've researched it for years, by the way, because I know I've watched interviews. I know Mike Tyson took it. A lot of the time, when people take that stuff, they lose a part of themselves in terms of that intensiveness in the ring. There's a UFC fighter called Shad Evans. He took it. And before that, he was over the hill. But he fought after that, and he was just more... He was losing to guys that he shouldn't have lost to. You know? But anyway, that's a roundup of Deontay Wilder's career. Let me know what you think. He amassed, again, a lot of title defenses. He made multi-millions for guys extremely limited. So he carved out a decent career for himself. My issue with him is though, it's just acting like he fought all the killers. Talking about with Tyson Fury, I blessed Tyson Fury with the opportunity to fight me. No, you didn't. You wanted to fight somebody who you thought had nothing for you. Stop it. Stop it with delusions. You got people at 78 Sport feeding his delusions even more. It's a joke. Maybe he has to live in that world for him just to function. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching the video. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.